Welcome back, everyone. You'll be glad to know, well, hopefully most of you will anyway, I have two brand new encounters for y'all tonight. I know it's kind of late for the Halloween themed encounters, but I received one of these yesterday and the other today. Maybe Halloween sparked something in these two individuals that pushed them to share their encounters. Either way, I'm grateful for both of these people. Let's not waste any more time and let's get into tonight's encounters. Grab a drink. Lock your doors and windows. Hit the lights. And let's get started. I never thought I'd say this, but I'll never step foot in another corn maze again, Halloween or not. It sounds stupid, I know, but let me explain the reason why I say this. After I'm done telling you this, you should be in full agreement with me. If not, you're a braver individual than myself. Last fall, I was working part-time at this family-owned farm in Nebraska. It was one of those big seasonal places that put on huge Halloween events every year. They had everything: haunted hay rides, haunted farmhouses, a pumpkin patch or two, and a massive corn maze that people drove hours just to see. The maze was famous for being tough to navigate and very complex to finish. Some people would get lost and need a lot of help to get out. Some people even joked that it was haunted, but I thought that was just part of the fun and just a gimmick. I got a gig as a maze guide, which basically meant I was supposed to help anyone who got lost or too scared to finish the maze. I didn't mind the job, but I did hate being in there alone at night. The corn grew tall and thick that it nearly blocked out almost all the light. And the only thing guiding me was my rinky-dink little flashlight. That night it was colder than usual and most of the guests had already left. There was only a couple of people still there and wandering around. I was supposed to sweep the maze and make sure everyone was out before we closed up. So I'm walking around, calling out, thinking I'd find the last stragglers soon. But every time I turned a corner, the maze felt and looked different somehow. The paths that had been open earlier were somehow closed off, like the corn was growing and shifting right in front of me. I thought I was imagining things, just Halloween getting in my head, and I kept reminding myself I'd been through this maze 100 times. I began to hear footsteps. They were heavy and loud, like someone was intentionally stomping so I could hear them. I could tell they were coming from somewhere behind me, and they were moving at a steady pace. I figured it was someone who'd gotten turned around, so I called out that the maze was closing to follow me, but there was no answer, and the footsteps stopped as soon as I spoke. I began laughing, thinking it was just one of the guests or a co-worker messing with me, so I continued walking, feeling a bit more on edge, only because I was anticipating the jump scare that was about to happen to me, most likely. That's when I noticed something else. The corn around me looked strange, like some stalks were twisted, bent almost to the ground, like something heavy had trampled through them. And on the dirt path were marks, long and deep, like something sharp had carved up the dirt. That's when I realized I hadn't seen any other people for quite some time. I think it was just me and whatever had left those marks and trampled the corn, which, honestly, I was thinking about doing myself just to get out of there. I knew I needed to calm down and think clearly, so I took a few deep breaths, telling myself I was being ridiculous. I was making my way in the direction that I thought was the way out. As I turned a blind corner in the trail, I saw something. Dead ahead in front of me, maybe 30 to 40 feet, hidden in the corn, a figure, tall, way too tall to be a person. It was just standing there, watching me, its head tilted to the side like it was wondering what I was or what I was doing there. It looked confused or maybe even impressed with my stupidity. I stopped dead still, and all I could see in the dim light was its outline and a pair of glowing red eyes staring straight at me. I know we had a guy that was on stilts and wearing a clown mask, but I don't think the eyes were red. I thought it was him at first, so I started laughing and talking to him, saying stuff like, "Okay, you got me. Real funny, man. Joke's over, I just want to get out of here and go home." The response was silence and still that blank stare, like it was amused with me. I couldn't help but to get the feeling that it was enjoying my fear. I realized this was not my coworker, and at that exact moment I immediately turned and ran straight through the corn in the direction that I thought was the main parking lot. Eventually I popped out of the corn onto another trail that looked familiar because of some of the decorations I saw. I stopped trying to be as quiet as I could so I could listen for any noises coming from behind me. At first I didn't hear anything, but after about 5 seconds or so I could hear something moving slowly in my direction. I looked and I could see the tops of the corn bending and swaying as whatever this was made its way in my direction. I started running again down the path in the opposite direction of whatever was following me. I've always thought that haunted Halloween attractions would be a perfect place for an actual serial killer to be hiding. The perfect cover-up. This thought was racing through my mind as I was running. My ability to think rationally and make sound decisions was clouded by my fear in this exact moment. My mind was filled with so many terrible thoughts. Maybe I was about to be killed by a psycho. To be honest, any type of cryptid creature was the farthest thing from my thoughts. Like everyone else, I had heard the stories, I'd saw the documentaries, and the movies about Bigfoot and other weird creatures that supposedly roam the woods. I've always been a rational individual, so these things never crossed my mind. I never believed any of that stuff. As I was trying to put distance between me and whatever this was, I could hear it was speeding up. Its pursuit getting closer. Footsteps getting louder. Off to my left, I noticed it was running directly beside me, matching my pace perfectly. This is the moment I knew I was in serious trouble. The corn was easily 8 feet tall, and as I looked closer, I could see what looked like the top half of a wolf's head barreling through the corn. I saw the nose, the top of the muzzle. I saw the pointed ears on top of the head. And I saw those red eyes watching me as I ran for my life. I finally busted out of the corn and into the back edge of the parking lot. There were only a couple cars left, including mine, and I was pretty far away from them as they were in the front of the lot. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. I looked around as I was opening the door, and I didn't see anything anywhere. I started my car, determined to get the hell away from whatever this thing was. As soon as my headlights came on, they were pointed at the corn maze. The lights hit something that I want to believe wasn't real, but I can't because I saw it with my own eyes. This thing was over 8 feet because its head was over the corn. I could see the entire upper half of its body as it was holding the corn open with its hands and peering out. The shape of its head reminded me kinda of a pit bull. Well, the size of the jaws, if that makes sense. It was huge. It had long, pointy ears with small tufts of hair sticking off the tips. Its chest was massive, easily 4 feet wide from shoulder to shoulder. I could clearly see this thing had hands similar to a human. And I will swear on my life to this day, this thing with its red eyes and a mouth full of jagged teeth was smiling at me as I drove away. I never went back to that farm. I quit the next day. I still think about it, though, especially at nighttime. I've had nightmares from time to time about being back in that maze with that monster. I know for a fact that it wasn't a prank. It wasn't a costume. That thing was real, and it definitely did not belong there. After all this happened, I never spoke about it to anyone because I knew what they would say and think about me. So, I did what most do. I bottled it all up and let it eat me up on the inside. I've listened to a lot of podcasts and YouTubers. I've watched hundreds of documentaries. From what I saw and the countless other people that have told their encounters, I know exactly what I saw, and you know what it was as well. I don't even want to say the name. To this day, I'm terrified of cornfields, even if I'm driving past one at 70 miles an hour. I had worked that maze for days, and no one ever reported seeing anything weird. That thought alone literally terrified me. To think of the hundreds of people that wandered through that maze, even with their children, oblivious to what might be lurking right next to them, hiding in the corn. I honestly wasn't sure if I would feel better after telling this, but you seem laid back and understanding as you've saw them yourself. I have to say this has helped me tremendously, and I want to thank you. This is a great platform compared to others. A lot of other YouTubers have people come on live and tell their encounters. Of course, I speak only for myself when I say I don't think I could do that. If I wasn't able to remain anonymous and not put my own voice out there, I would never do this. So thank you. I'm sure you are helping a lot more people other than myself. Well, that's it. That's all I've got. I never saw anything weird again after that, and I pray to God that I never do again. Anonymous. Tonight's second encounter. All this happened just last month, and to be honest, I haven't really told anyone about it yet. Not even my friends, not even my boss. Mostly because it just sounds insane. But I can't shake this. It still keeps me up at night, going over and over the details in my head, wondering why it had to be me. Why did I have to see this thing? So I work as a tour guide in New Orleans, leading those ghost tours through the cemeteries and around the old parts of the city. I've been doing it for a couple of years now, and honestly, I love it. I get to tell creepy stories, meet all kinds of cool people, and watch them get spooked out of their minds. They come to the city wanting that supernatural thrill, and I'm the one who gives it to them. But on this particular night, man, I got more than I bargained for. I was leading a small group through one of the oldest cemeteries in town. One of those with the big above-ground tombs that look like little stone houses, you know the ones. It was early in October, perfect for a ghost tour. Or that's the idea anyway. We were nearing the end just after sunset, and the place was empty except for us. I was in the middle of telling this story about a famous jazz musician who supposedly haunts the place when I noticed something, or someone, in the distance, standing in the shadows near one of the tombs. I thought it was a straggler from another tour group, maybe someone trying to give us a scare. But the longer I looked, the stranger I felt. This figure was tall, like really tall, and completely still. I couldn't make out any details, just this dark shape with what looked like pointed ears. I tried to ignore it and keep the group moving, keep their attention on me. It is New Orleans. You see a lot of weird shit. I didn't want anyone to get freaked out or distracted, but I could feel this thing watching us, like I was being observed and studied. I led the group a little farther along the path, talking louder, trying to sound like I wasn't even noticing it. That's when I saw its eyes. They were yellow and glowing, like some kind of wild animal's eyes catching the light, except there was no light out there to reflect. Then it started moving. It stepped out from the shadows, and it was worse than anything I could have imagined. It looked like a dog, but it was way too tall, standing upright. Its fur was thick and dark, and it was clinging to its frame like it had just come out of the swamp. The ears were pointed and tall on top of its head, and its face, it had this snout, long and almost wolf-like. It was baring its teeth that looked like they were way too big to fit inside its mouth. One of the tourists must have seen it too, because she gasped and grabbed her boyfriend's arm. The whole group started to notice, and I could feel the panic setting in. But I told them it was probably just a prank, someone in a costume trying to keep them calm. In my head, though, I was thinking, there's no way. There is no way that is human. We started to back up, and that's when it moved again. It was circling us like we were playing Ring Around the Rosie. Every time we took a step, it took one too, staying just out of sight, moving in and out of the shadows around the tombs. But it was quiet. It didn't make a sound when it moved. It made no sense. We heard no footsteps or breathing or anything. Just this slow, creeping movement. Then it suddenly stopped again just a few feet away. That's when I saw it clearly, towering, covered in fur, eyes locked right on me, like it knew I was the one in charge, the one everyone was looking to. It let out a low, growling sound, and I swear to God, I could feel it rumbling in my chest. That was enough for me and everyone else. The group broke apart, screaming, running, scattering like bugs. I did my best to herd them toward the exit, but this cemetery is like a maze, with paths that twist and turn around the tombs. In the dark, with everyone panicking, we kept getting turned around, and every time I thought we'd put some distance between us and the creature, it would show up again right in front of us, like it was guiding us deeper into the cemetery. Finally, after what felt like forever, but was probably a few minutes, I spotted the main gate, and I called out to everyone, trying to keep them together. As soon as we reached it, I looked back one last time. The creature had stopped just at the edge of the cemetery. It was standing there, just staring at us, just a silhouette against the dark. But those eyes were glowing bright. It didn't follow us out, it didn't make a sound, it just watched us go. And then it lifted its head and let out this howl that was unlike anything I've ever heard. It echoed through the whole cemetery. It was deep, guttural, and almost human sound, but it was also twisted and feral. We stumbled out of there, breathing heavy, not even speaking, just looking at each other in shock. When we got back to the street, I tried to make a joke to break the tension. I told everyone it was a great end to the night, right? But no one laughed. They looked as freaked out as I felt. I could tell some of them thought it was real, and honestly, I think they were right. I haven't been back there at night since that happened. I told my boss I'd only do daytime tours for now. I know it sounds crazy, but I've spent so many nights in those cemeteries, so many hours alone around all those tombs, and I've never felt anything like that before. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was something supernatural or just, I don't know. Could it have been the infamous Rougarou or Dogman? This thing has a lot of different names, but seems to be the same creature. It wasn't a prank, I am fully sure of that. I felt evil, like strong evil, radiating from this thing. The tour group didn't wait for an explanation. They all left immediately. They all saw what I saw, probably felt what I felt. That was really there. I don't know if it's natural or supernatural. There are a lot of differing opinions on that. I will share my own thoughts for what it's worth. No living animal that I'm aware of can move in the ways I saw this thing move. Nothing physical can radiate pure hatred and evil, not that I've encountered before. In my mind, this is a supernatural being of sorts. I don't know why it is, where it comes from, or what purpose it may serve. One word describes it for me, and that's evil. Pure evil. I was hoping letting this out would help, but to be honest, I only feel crazier than before by typing this out and reliving the whole thing over again. Maybe I will feel different in the coming days. I hope so. This is a heavy burden to carry, to experience something like this. You desperately want and need validation, but there is none. No one believes you. I don't even care if they do. I just want to know what it is and why it chose that night, that group of people, to show itself to. I'm done. If you have any questions, send me an email. I'll try my best to answer them. Anonymous. Well, y'all, I know it's late for Halloween, but you have to understand when I read these, I knew it was fate that I uploaded them together. This is my late Halloween special upload. Think of it that way. I hope the longer episode is better for some of you. I know that some people prefer the shorter ones because they get straight to the point. Others want longer ones. In the future, I can try to mix it up and do both. I want to thank both of these lovely people for sharing these stories here with us all. As for the second encounter, I did email him back a few times, and he said he is slowly feeling some relief from telling someone what happened. I think initially it was the reliving the whole thing that got to him. It gets a little easier and a little better with time, brother, believe me. And the corn maze encounter. Ugh. I hate those things. I went through one in my entire life. I was 18 probably. Let's just say that's a strong no for me. Well, legends, that's going to do it for this one. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, as it helps out tremendously. I appreciate all the support. Much love from the Bluegrass State. Until next time, my friends, watch over your loved ones. Keep your head on a swivel. And as always, good night.